Hey everyone, this is David Brown, and today Kim and I started birding at Cape Henlopen State Park, which is located near Lewis, Delaware, down in Sussex County. And this part of the park is known as the Point, and it's actually closed off during the nesting season for piping plovers and other birds to nest. And I should mention that we weren't in the closed area, but rather we were standing right behind the fence, and we were able to look in and see some piping plovers. So you can see that piping plovers superficially resemble semi-palmated plovers, but piping plovers are much lighter in color, and that helps them blend in with dry sand. Piping plovers are a species of concern, so they're closely monitored here in Delaware and in other states as well. Here's a digiscoped photo I took where you have the adult in the center along with two very young fluffball chicks. So they did successfully nest at Cape Henlopen State Park this year. There were a bunch of these crabs around, and they're fairly large, and they were digging these holes where they'd go down in and grab a big clump of sand and come out and toss it. And we were getting worried sometimes because they were coming close to us and they looked like they wanted to beat us up, and they kind of walk around sideways and look at you with their giant eyeballs. So very cool. I put this in iNaturalist and I called it the Atlantic ghost crab. So really cool name for a cool species. Here's an osprey that caught what I believe is an Atlantic menhaden. All the fishermen can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And the osprey came right towards us, letting me get some great photos. And one more look at the osprey, and you can see that dark stripe on the side of the head. But overall, ospreys are pretty easy to identify, just a very large, lanky, black and white raptor that like to eat fish. Here's one of my target species for the day. This is a brown pelican, and it's not the greatest photo ever, but we did have 5 of them. Here we have a medium-sized yellow songbird with a very pointed bill. This is actually an oriole, and whenever you see an oriole like this that's completely yellow and has a black throat, this is the immature male plumage of the orchard oriole. So this is one that would have been born last summer. Here was one of my favorite species of the day. These least terns gave us terrific looks. They're super tiny. They're really cool looking with the yellow bill and the white forehead and really quick flaps. They were diving in the water really close to us, so really neat species. On the upper wing, they have a dark edge to that outermost primary. And one more photo of a least tern because they're so cool looking. And we had about 20 of them total, so really common at this spot, but it's a species that when I'm traveling to other places, I rarely see, so I always love coming down to the coast here in Delaware and seeing them. I sometimes watch YouTube videos of people doing this kind of thing, but let me tell you, I was very happy to be on the ground looking up, and this guy was especially high. Most of the morning, we could hear a couple prairie warblers singing, and we ended up getting a nice look at this one, and I was happy for that because this is a species that even when I hear them, I very rarely see them. So it was nice to get a nice look and some photos today. Kim and I walked the road checking the electrical wires for the white-winged dove that's been around recently. We had no luck with that, but we did come across this dragonfly, which iNaturalist identified as a bar-winged skimmer. And we came across this huge, juicy thing crossing the road, and this turned out to be a rhinoceros beetle larva. Here's a blue grosbeak that seems to be in a transitional plumage. I think this is a male that was born last year and is now transitioning from its brown plumage into its first adult blue plumage. We already took a look at the smallest tern in the world, the least tern, so why not the largest tern in the world? Here we have a Caspian tern, and note that thick reddish-orange bill. Compare that to this tern, which is only slightly smaller and has more of a bright orange bill that's a little bit thinner and not quite as extensive of a black cap. This is a royal tern, which was another year bird for me. Here we have some seaside dragonlets, and it's an appropriate name given the location right along the ocean. And you can't visit the beaches of Delaware in the summer without stopping to appreciate the laughing gulls. Kim and I were all smiles after a great morning of birding, and there were quite a few other birders around. Got to meet a few other Delaware birders whose names we've seen on eBird and other places. So a fun morning overall. We never did get the white-winged dove, although Kim has already seen that bird. And we were also hoping to see some sandwich terns that had been reported as recently as yesterday, but they didn't show up either. But overall, a really nice day to be out. And this is a spot I don't get down to too often, so really fun place to bird. Next, we headed north and stopped at the headquarters of Prime Hook National Wildlife Refuge. And we had to walk about a half mile out the trail, but we found our target bird, which was black skimmer. And there were a lot of them. Kim counted a total of 74, and these are just such a cool bird with the way they fly. Of course, they skim low to the water, and they have that really unique bill with a really long lower mandible that they can put in the water, and they use that to feed as they skim along. Here's the view from the little observation platform at the end of the trail. And from there, we had a nice view of an osprey nest that had 2 babies in it. Here's an eagle that was soaring up really high, and I kept looking at it with binoculars and doing a double take because it kept sort of looking like a golden eagle, the way the wings were pinching in and just the overall coloration. So it wasn't until I took a photo and zoomed in to double check it that I was satisfied that it was just a bald eagle, which of course is the only expected eagle this time of season. You can see that white head, the tail's starting to get kind of whitish, and it's mostly dark underneath with just some white splotching. So this is an older, immature, bald eagle. Next, we stopped at the Marvel Saltmarsh Preserve, and there's 2 types of sparrows that you see down in the grasses. And I kept getting on the seaside sparrows, which are much more gray overall. But then Kim, I don't know what I'd do without her, she finally spotted this bird, which is a Saltmarsh sparrow. So it has more orange to the face, and it's lighter on the breast compared to the seaside sparrows that have a little bit of yellow above the eye, but are just really dark gray overall on the front. And we ended the day with a stop at the Dupont Nature Center at Mispillion. There were a lot of gulls around, and most of them were really ugly. It's a lot of immature gulls and transitional plumages. Here we have a great black-backed gull. Here we have a male red-winged blackbird, and he looks a little bit disheveled. I'm not sure why. You can see through his feathers here and see bare skin. Here's a really cool large shorebird. This is an American oyster catcher. And here's the same oyster catcher in flight, and we had only a couple of them, and we also had some at Cape Henlopen in the morning as well. Here we have a barn swallow, and they seem to be nesting somewhere either on the building or down underneath the deck that we were standing on. Here we have another large shorebird coming in for a landing. We can see some big white stripes on the wings. This is a willet. With the wings folded, they're a little bit more drab, but look at that really thick, straight bill. Here's another really cool species that I don't see most other places. This is a male boat-tailed grackle. And you can see it kind of looks like the common grackle, but this is a lot bigger and the tail is just huge. And here's the female boat-tailed grackle that appears to be carrying food, so they must be nesting nearby. And just as we were getting in the car to leave, I spotted this mockingbird, but I said, wait a minute, why does that have striping on the breast? And it turns out that's because it's a juvenile. Here's the juvenile mockingbird in flight, and I just love the white highlights they have, both on the wings and in the outer tail. And here's the baby mockingbird begging for food from either mom or dad. Taking a look at the map, you can see we started at Cape Henlopen State Park, which is directly across from Cape May, New Jersey. And then after that, we worked our way up. Here's Prime Hook, and then up to the Marvel Saltmarsh Preserve, and then up to Mispillion. And this is right where the county line is between Sussex County, which is the southernmost county of Delaware, and Kent County, which is the middle county. Taking a look at the eBird trip report, today we had 72 species. All right, well, it was a great day of birding down in Sussex County, Delaware. The weather was beautiful. We met some wonderful people and got to see some birds that I don't see too often. So overall, a great day, and I hope that you can get out birding soon and have a great day of your own. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.